Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Bunglevite here on behalf of MMOBomb.com, and welcome to our first impressions of Eclipse War Online. Eclipse War Online is a new fantasy-based MMORPG that has a really large focus on transformation, the ability to transform into things that you kill, both boss monsters and the typical monsters you find in your day-to-day trekking throughout the world here. Now, there are two main races that you can play as: the Rumen, which are sort of the humanoid type race, and the Caligo, again humanoids but mutant humanoids. As you can see here, I have a level 12 hunter, which is a Caligo, as you can see on the right. This is the beta server. We're currently in closed beta, and I believe this is the last day of the closed beta before the game switches over into open beta sometime in the near future. Now, one thing I didn't know is when you create your character, it seems you are locked to a specific race for that server. So the game does have a lot of PvP elements to it. In fact, there are some unique PvP elements specific to Eclipse War Online that it does throughout World PvP as well as Battlegrounds. So I'd imagine that maybe this is done for balancing purposes, although it is very annoying because you cannot just create a character at all once you have selected a particular race. That being said, I can still show you the character creation screen, and pretty much the Rumen versus the Caligo, which is what you're seeing here, almost look exactly the same. The only difference is the Caligo are sort of regarded as mutants. They sort of were affected by this very unique dark magic called Shadow Steel magic that basically made them corrupted and made them more aggressive, and that is how the split between the Caligo and the Rumen actually occurred. They used to be the same race. Now, there are four main different classes for you to try, and pretty much they sort of follow the standard warrior, mage, range DPS, and melee DPS. The Magic Stormer, as what I can see, is the most quote-unquote unique class, but in practice it basically functions like an AoE rogue, very up and close, using his blades there to slash about. Now, in terms of customization features, you can change the color of your face, you can change the color of your hair, as well as the style of your face, but really that's all that there is. You can of course change the size of your character, which seems to scale them up and down, but there isn't really sort of anything about muscles or facial structure. It's very basic overall, which is something pretty typical with Korean or Asian MMORPGs. That being said, there is something that I should mention, and that's the fact that at least on the humans, some of the human characters, one in particular I remember, has a beard, and the beard does not actually change color with your hair on top of your head. So what you'll end up with is a beard that is one color, whereas your hair is another. And these kind of just look like purple zombies, honestly. A little bit of flesh showing out there. But overall, the character models are actually not that terribly undetailed. You can see quite a lot. There's a nice sheen to that. And if you're not really into character creation, then you're not going to have to worry about that too much. Alright, so why don't we go ahead then and jump on to Serafa here, who is a hunter. The hunters have access to cannons. Other than the hunters and the sort of magic stormers, you have the healer and the warrior, and those classes don't sort of divert from what you would expect. The warrior, so the tank up front, he has charge abilities. The healer is more of the support, whereas the hunter is range DPS. Doesn't really seem to have access to pets, but that's okay. There are some pet-like abilities that allow you to summon different things, which we'll talk about once we get in game. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and connect to the game here and load right in. As you can see, there are the two factions sort of facing off against each other. Now, each faction does have sort of a couple allies to aid them in battle. In fact, both factions do start on opposite sides of the world. If we hit open the menu really quickly, you'll notice this is the entire sort of continental areas. You have these two sort of opposing continents: the southern continent of Karis, which is where the Lumen live, the original race, and then the eastern continent, which is where the Caligo live. And then in the middle continent here, this is where the large conflict between the two sides actually take place. It looks like each side has its own sort of starting base, and in the middle you can sort of move into it and fight there within. There is a lot of PvP in the game, both open world and dungeon based like battlegrounds, for you to participate in. And in fact, you can also obtain some of your enemies, downed enemies' skills upon killing them, which we'll talk about. That sort of goes along with the sort of transformation. Alright, so I'm on one quest right here, which is to collect Silent Bear fur skins. Now, if anything this game suffers from is the fact that it's just a lot of kill quests. Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of kill, and some of it is collecting from the kills. And that's pretty much all there is. There's no real, as far as I can see so far, I'm level 12, there's no real deviation from that. A couple of them will have you go talk to players, but predominantly you're going to be killing enemy minions or monsters, and that's going to be your experience, at least for the first 12, 13 levels. So I haven't really seen any sort of divergence from that, any special class quest or anything like that. Alright, now to collect anything off the ground, you can just hit F there. As you can see, that'll allow you to collect. You can also right click on it to pick it up as well. And so from the main, from the get-go, you can kind of see that the combat is fairly basic in its natural state. It's very basic. You have your skills here. I've got Snipe, Bleeding Shot, and MP Decrease Shot, which removes their MP. But then I have sort of more unique options here: Crippling Worms, Worm Onslaught, and Frenzy. Well, Frenzy is actually a buff that I have, but Crippling Worms and Worm Onslaught are two things that are a little bit unique, and these are sort of interesting in that they actually don't sort of look at like hunters at all. You'll notice here I can summon these crazy looking worms, and these worms will fight for me, and I believe also follow me as well, or at least get into combat with me. I have had them be able to take on multiple amounts of enemies. Looks like they only were summoned for a short amount of time, but they'll fight multiple enemies if they're in the same area. One of them is on a 2-minute cooldown, another one is on about 13-14 second cooldown. And I've already leveled up again there. Now, every time you level up, you're able to place points into base status here. Again, the game is in closed beta, so I'm sure that some of this text may change to be more reflective of Western lingo. But base status is basically your stats, and you can allocate 25 points per level to each of your individual stat areas. And for me, since I am a ranged DPS, I usually want to put it in strength and dexterity. Strength is overall all damage, and not just strength as in like warrior damage. It also applies to range damage as well. While dexterity, of course, is a increase to your critical strike chance, your evasiveness, all that good stuff. So I'm just putting those willy-nilly. I haven't really seen anything specific as to where I should put them. And that's sort of very, very typical in a lot of MMOs, especially foreign MMOs, the whole individual stat allocation. Now, every 30 minutes or so, you do get a blessing, which you can confirm. It's sort of just to give you an incentive to keep playing. This blessing can be gold, experience, or an item. And typically speaking, gold is quite useful, but I'm going to go for an item. And we'll see exactly what I get. Now, did it actually come through? We'll see here. Is that the item that I got? Or maybe... Ah, there it is. Okay, so I've got Darkness Gloves. Better... Okay, they're apparently for a healer. So I can't really use those items. It is a random item that you get. But you can get gold if you don't want a random item. If you want a little bit more certainty, you can, of course, get gold or experience. And so it's a nice little additional feature. One thing I should say, though, is there hasn't really been at all the need to, get experience, or buy or get that experience from the blessing, in that I level up extremely quickly. I think I've played overall maybe 30-40 minutes, and I'm already level 13, so the leveling pace is quite quick. Now, the main sort of grab of this game, the main thing that people are going to be wanting to know about is the transformation system. And the transformation system is a very integral part of Eclipse War Online. As you fight monsters, you gain access to these cards that they drop. And these cards are basically allow you to transform into that given monster. Now, this has been seen before. There are a lot of other MMOs that do transformation cards. A lot of times, though, those MMOs only restrict you to that form for a few seconds or maybe a minute. But in Eclipse War Online, you can be in this form indefinitely. And in fact, a lot of times you will want to be in this form indefinitely. These forms give you big benefits to your stats, as well as granting you their own unique skills, which you can use independent of your own skills. So as you can see here, it's kind of funny to watch, but I can shoot fireballs and sort of projectiles out of my mouth and absolutely shoot silent bears across the screen there. Just collecting more silent bear fur there. And you'll notice that these actually will level up independently of your own level. Now, you'll get experience for both. You don't have to be in one form to get experience. You can be in this form here to get experience for both of them at the same time. Got some sharp teeth there. I need one more for skin there. And so my skills here, Wolf Pierce, these are all based on whatever current character I'm playing. As you notice, I think, get a new skill there, MP Consume Shot. Attacks a single enemy with physical damage and decreases MP. So I got one that increases the max MP, and then one decreases the amount of MP that they have over time. So I can just basically remove mana from them. Alright, so I need one more of these. And as you can see, my skills here are Wolf Strike, Wolf Rush, and Wolf Pierce. So everything's Wolf. And they have their own specific animations for the characters, which is pretty nice. You know, they do sort of go through the trouble of adding specific like sit animations and things that you would normally expect to be able to do as a human, but also be able to do in a transformation. Alright, so I've killed these guys, and as you can see, the combat is very, very simple, not too hard at all to kill anything, at least in the lower levels. And it seems as though that you'll want to be playing in a particular transformation for a majority of the time. You don't really seem to get a benefit of being a human other than, you know, wanting to look at your character perhaps, because you can access most of your skills here while being in a special form. Now I've obtained a new transformation card, which is the big silent bear. You pretty much get a transformation card for each of the particular types of monsters that you kill, or, you know, beast or whatever have you. You may notice here, if I bring it up, I have one called Cursed Sentinel, which is a level limit of 43. I can't actually use this right now, but what it is essentially, and where do I go? I still haven't got another silent, man, you guys just are not dropping your furs. I also got a new skill here. Attacks an enemy with inflicted damage over time. Looks pretty awesome. So bam, there, do about half your HP, and then yep, just fall over dead. Alright, so that nobody's dropping their fur here. But I got that in particular skill. I got this skill here got this transformation rather. I got this transformation by combining 4 of these cards, and by combining 4 of those cards, I got a random transformation that I could or could not use, depending on whether or not, let's see, it's collect silent bear fur skin. Alright, so I don't need chaotic bears, I need silent bears. So I need these guys up here. Yeah. Just making sure I was actually doing the right one. So you can get a random transformation. That transformation, its power is based on what you actually put into it. So if you put more rare upgraded transformations, you'll get a more rare upgraded version of a monster that you may have not seen. In that case, I have not seen a Cursed Sentinel, I believe, at least one at that level. And as you can see there, I've leveled up yet again in this form. And every time you level up, if we actually look at the card, every time you level up, the actual card itself will also level up. So you'll gain access to additional stats. Of course, you got the abilities here, which I've gained access to. But on top of this, I can also just refine this skill too. So if I click this skill, I can hit refine. And by placing the skill in here, I can refine it using gold to increase particular stats. And notice down here it says improve stats if successful. These are the stats that I gain or lose when I'm actually in that form. So you notice here my intellect is decreased by 34 and my vitality is decreased by 6. If I was to actually go into this form, these stats would change. So the stats are dependent, the actual bonus stats you get are dependent on which transformation you go into. But if I wanted to, I could refine these by spending gold, and by refining these, it increases all my stats by 4. So the big chaotic wolf here has been increased by 2, giving it even better stats on top of its own leveling stats. Now I can sort of just switch between these freely, and one thing that's also sort of unique in the sense that when I'm in particular areas, I get additional bonuses. So if I hover over this, you can see there is something called main activity time and main activity zone. So what these are 2 separate sort of factors which allow you to gain bonus stats or bonus damage if you use a particular sort of transformation in a certain type of area. So in the case of the bear, if I was to play the bear during the day, which is night currently, as well as in an activity zone near forest where there's no artificial architecture, I would actually gain additional stats, and those would be indicated here. There'll be a little icon that shows up to tell me that I'm getting those bonus stats, and that in itself is actually pretty unique. I think that's sort of very interesting that, you know, it adds something to that transformation mechanic, not just as a gimmick, it's sort of a main part. And the fact that you can sort of just play indefinitely as a particular type of transformation is nice too. It's just, you know, gives you something to look at that's different every time. In this case here, the bear impact, my transformation skill stuns and does damage. Now there's also something called a rage skill, which I will show you. And a rage skill is something that you can use after being hit for a number of amount of damage over time. Once it reaches 100, which it's already done, you gain access to a rage skill. Looks like I've leveled up here, and I've auto-learned Gravity Lessener quest, which basically gets me a quest where I can move faster. So it's sort of like a mount quest, although there is no mount applied. Now, this skill here, as it levels or as it continues to increase, what exactly happens is every time it gets to 100, it becomes a more powerful rage skill. So right now it's like a level 1 rage skill. Skill level 1, as you can see here, increases the physical critical accuracy of self or ally by 24 for 15 minutes. So that's the first rage skill level, and if I let that continue, it'll get higher and higher. And what I've seen so far is that this is also dependent on what form you're in. So this before was something different that I had not actually used before. Alright, so collect Chaotic Bear. I have to collect more stuff from Chaotic Bears. Let's come over here. Now, every time you use a particular sort of transformation card to upgrade or create a new card, you will lose the individual starting card that you had. And what that means, essentially, I've got, there's only 17 minutes left to collect something. I want to see this quest here. I should have paid attention to this. Usually these quests are pretty straightforward. They're kill or collect. Occasionally it looks like you do have to get a particular thing done, but oh well. Promise with merchant, collect Chaotic Bear or something or other. Alright. So as you can see there, I've gotten another thing. And so like I said, you do lose that card when you use it, and you'll have to re-level that card. So you need to sort of take that into account. I wish I could... Okay, how do I... Okay, there it is. Chaotic, alright. Listen, I need Chaotic Bear heart. Alright, so I need a heart. And no one is dropping a heart, apparently. That is terrible. Alright, come on, Chaotic Bears. Where are your hearts? Don't be so heartless on me. I really like the fact... That's so funny, like a woo! The hind leg, leg animation is quite hilarious. I also think it's hilarious that I can just sort of use these abilities even when I'm in this form and I'll just shoot beams out of my mouth. Which is pretty hilarious in itself. Although my favorite ability has to be the fact that I summon worms. Now these crippling worms and worm onslaught, these abilities, I actually had a worm form at one time that I used to create that special sort of higher level summon. And I'm curious if that new ability that I got was based on my class, which is the hunter, or based on the fact that I was a transformer. I had a worm transformation. By looking here, I can see my active and passive skills, and it appears as though the worms happen to be one of my skills. So you notice here I have Worm Onslaught as well as Crippling Worms. And once I get to level 17, I'll be able to continue to place points into each of these skills here to sort of increase particular skills. But until that opportunity, I will just simply be able to automatically learn those skills. Although, as you can see, after level 14, the amount of skills you learn drastically drops off. That is sort of made up for the fact, though, by the fact that you get a bunch of different skills by playing as a particular class or a particular transformation. Alright, so I'm level 14. I need to go to level 15 in order to advance to the new area. And one thing I just have to say is that the quests are just very, very generic. Unfortunately, you know, you're going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. And while they may drive you to, say, get different pets or different, transformations, that may drive you to continue, it doesn't seem like the developers put a lot of thought into the questing. They put a lot of thought into the transformation, into the ability to... I need to kill big silent bears. I can look at where that is on the map. So I mean, there's silent bears and there's big silent bears, which are slightly larger than normal silent bears. I mean, and then I'm playing as a bear, so it's just a lot of bear stuff there. Just tons of bears all the time. All right, so and also it can be a little bit hard, as you can see, to attack characters. You know, it doesn't really let you know that you're highlighting them very well, or you can click easily and miss it. Alright, so I've gone ahead and killed that big silent bear here. Now, outside of the questing, there are dungeons. Some of the early dungeons, I believe, you can access at level 20 or so. And then, of course, there's open world PvP, which I believe starts around level 20. Again, you know, once you sort of reach those outer-lying areas outside of the main sort of quest hubs for each particular faction. Let's summon some more worms here. I just love summoning worms. So let's go, my worms, go. And I like the fact that as a ranged wolf here, look at my worms just flying in there attacking. I can merely attack from afar and shoot these beams. So I mean, there's sort of like the novelty of that, you know, thinking that's pretty hilarious. The game is currently in closed beta, so I'd imagine here it looks like it leveled up yet again. I imagine that there'll be some improvements to just the overall glitches and bugs as the game continues, but I don't see the game getting any more sort of in depth. You know, I don't see the questing improving. And really, that's going to be, I think, a main turnoff for a lot of people. I think people can get past the combat, you know, being as it is tap targeting because of the fact that the game does utilize this sort of transforming mechanics. Some people can look past that. I myself could not look past it, honestly. And one thing I should mention is that the sound just randomly cuts out at times. You'll find that there'll be times where you just won't hear any music at all until you relog. So there are things like that that sort of take you out of the immersion, especially if you're trying to grind, which is a big part of the game, it seems. Alright, so we've reached a new level. A Shout of Fear stuns an enemy in range for 5 seconds. So again, that's level 80 there. I'm just going to let that go up to yet another level just to see what happens here. But overall, this is sort of the main gameplay that you're going to experience. Now, there is gathering. There are professions that you can access here. I should bring this open. You can see there is the profession skills. You can learn profession at level 10. You can craft miscellaneous equipment, or crafting miscellaneous. It doesn't really tell you what that is. And that's one thing that this game doesn't do too well, is just immediately sort of guiding you. It does give you a long fact, which you can read multiple things of exactly what to do and what level you actually access certain things. One of the sort of unique things is Death List, which basically grants you additional stat points if you go and you kill or you complete this sort of secondary side objective or side quest at any time by searching out those monsters or by killing a certain monster in a dungeon. I wonder if I can go down there without dying. Let's find out. Oh, looks like I can't run off hills. Aww. Well, that's annoying there. I cannot actually get off hills. Now, one other sort of unique aspect with the transforming. How do I get down there? Maybe I have to go around. I can't actually zoom in this area either to sort of see things more clearly. I can zoom in here on the top right, some, but not a lot. And unfortunately, that's really all I have access to. So I still can't collect a chaotic heart. I don't know if it just wants me to sort of spam and kill all of them in the area, you know, continuously. But as of now, I cannot do so, which is a little bit of a disappointment. Now, I do have a double experience scroll enabled. Even without that enabled, I was leveling up extremely fast. You notice here I'm level 14. The zone is level 12. So I've already sort of out-leveled in the particular zone. And don't these mushrooms look oddly familiar, guys? Don't these mushrooms look like they're from another place I've seen in MMO? Ooh, Chaotic Mantis. So this is one of the sort of minions that I am tasked with killing, rather, if I want to get additional stat points and bonuses. Now, you notice here it said natural prey, and that's sort of dealing with your transformation. There are natural prey and natural enemies or predators of a particular transformation that you may be fighting. So that means you'll get additional bonus damage or you'll get an additional bonus effect when you attack them if they are in your natural prey, and you'll get a debuff if you attack something that is you are the natural prey of, rather, that it's your predator. So it's sort of that thing to sort of keep in mind whenever you're in a particular form, which sort of, I guess, also makes it so that you want to transform, you want to have multiple forms, just so you have something for each you know, situation or scenario. Again, look, more collection of mushrooms, collect silent bush fishermen's. It doesn't really tell me the whole thing. I wish I could sort of expand that a bit. But we're now down here, and the graphics are really nothing to write home about. They're pretty basic in itself. The character models are not bad, but it seems like the character models are sort of the main area that they spent most of the time doing the graphics in. Other than that, I can't really say too much more about the game. You level up very quickly, you gain access to new things to use very quickly, so there is a lot of things to sort of divert your attention and keep you busy. But I can't really say too much about the actual gameplay. It's very sort of generic. As you can see here, there are party matching features where you can sort of group up with people. There's the guild functionality, which we've seen, of course, in everything else. There's an event system, which also allows you to gain, you know, experience boosts or do things without the world. And that was something that when reading the forums, I noticed that players were really excited about, because there was apparently a lot of events going on here. But overall, you're going to be playing this mainly for the transformation system here. Just getting different transformations, upgrading them, combining them to see what you get. You know, just kind of finding something that suits your playstyle. And I can imagine going into dungeons, there are many, even up to the higher levels, and sort of like, okay, I'm going to be a ranged wolf, you know, get these certain stat bonuses because I know these particular monsters are in there. There is queued battlegrounds, as you can see, battlefields, but they don't begin until level 20, like I mentioned before. And then also you have to sort of level up your PvP level, which is something specific down here, as you notice. And this can be leveled up by just open world PvPing or just PvPing in general. Now, when I mentioned earlier that you can gain skills of your opponents in PvP, it works similar to how it does with transformations. When you kill someone who happens to be an enemy player, you can transform into them and gain access to some of their skills for a limited amount of time. So you'll be able to sort of transform into your enemies there and gain access to their skills, try out their skills, and see how it goes there. But overall, guys, there's not really much more to say about the game. That's pretty much it for my first impressions. If you guys want to know more about the game, though, let's go ahead and use this skill, I guess. I'll go ahead and use the skill before I forget to, so you guys can see it. If you want to learn more about the game, though, go ahead and check down below at MMOBomb.com for the full game profile. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Spunkify out. Later, guys.